Hello everyone, welcome back to the series on Oracle AI Agent Studio Workflow Agents. So this is first part of episode 4 where we are going to do a deep dive into one of the node types, that is AI nodes, that's the category, and we will also see how these actually look inside Oracle Fusion and how does these AI nodes like LLM node, agent node, workflow node and the document tool node works. And as I was saying earlier, as part of this series, episode 4 is going to have multiple parts, each part covering a different node group or the categories. So if you have not watched episode 3 or maybe all the 3 episodes, like 1 to 3 yet, where we covered all these things, the prerequisite, I would highly recommend starting there first. Links for episode 1, 2, 3 are already mentioned in the description, and I've also link it at top from where you can check these out. So think of this part as where things start getting really practical. We will move from understanding what the nodes are and to actually seeing how and when to use them, right? So if you're new here, do hit subscribe so you don't miss any update on any part of the series, right? So let's get into it. So now, as you already know from my last video, AI nodes are the intelligence layer of the workflow, right? But what does that actually mean in practice? Let me walk you through with each one with a real example. So we'll go in sequence, right? So we will start with RAG, then go to the LLM, and then we'll cover these two nodes, that is agent node and the workflow node. So now to start with the rag slash document tool. Okay, so think of this as your enterprise knowledge layer. I will give you with an example. Let's say employee ask, like let's say there is an expense policy which we generally have in each company, and if I need to query into that, I have to go through the document. So instead of going through the document, we build this agent. So where we can ask what is the travel reimbursement limit for the international trip. So what this rag or the document tool do, it will retrieve the relevant policy and returns the limit plus any approval threshold that it may apply. Now, if you are not sure what this document tool is, this is nothing but one of the tool types which exist within the AI Agent Studio. And if you're not sure how to create the document tool, you can check out my another video which I create and covered where I covered how to create a document tool. So for now, as part of this video, we are only going to see from workflow agent perspective because this is a series on workflow agent. We will only see how this document tool get used within the workflow agents. We are not going to cover how to create a document tool. So if you're interested, go check that the other video out for the document tool creation, which I will link, provide a link in the description as well as on the top of this video, which you will be able to see. Now, before I go and show you how does this rag slash document tool works within a workflow agent, I would like to talk about one best practice. Okay, and that best practice is rag tool. If you use in a workflow agent, it will give you an evidence, but not the final answer. You or we still have to pass the output of that rag slash document tool to an LLM node. Otherwise, what will happen? We are just exposing the raw policy text to the user, and that will be too huge that as an end user, we will not be able to understand if we directly try to consume the output of this rag slash document tool. And that's how the LLM node will come into picture. So first I will show you the rag and then I will go into the LLM. So now we'll just quickly log in into Oracle. So I'm in the Oracle now. So here, this is one of the document tool which I have created. So what I did, I will just quickly show that this is the employee policy, and here I just attached one of the publicly available policy and procedure for expense, which I'm going to leverage. Now, what I will do, I will go into the agent teams to create a workflow agent, and I will go on to create this. So what I will do, I just for now, I will just say employee expense demo, and I will say family this, and maybe common type is going to be workflow, and then I will say this workflow agent will help with user queries, and maybe we can add more details. For now I'm just giving this a quick idea. I just wanted to show you. That's why I'm just saying user queries around expenses, let's say. Okay, I will just make sure that LLM is selected, which is now selected. So I'll just go ahead and create this. So now I'm in the workflow agent. So now, for now we are talking about this node under the AI grouping. So this is the rag document tool. What I'm going to do, I will click on plus to create this, and then I will say employee policy answer. I will say fin, and say it in common, and then I will select that tool which I have created. Now in question, what I can do, I can, if this is just for this purpose, if I have to use, then what I can do, I can write a hard-coded question from here. But for now, what I will do, I will use a input message, because when I provide an input, then this document tool, which will document, this document tool will use. So to be able to leverage the input, what I will do, I will just go into this insert expression context and then select the input message from here. So this is now how I will select a context-based thing for a given thing. And now what I will do, I will just say create. Now, what I was saying earlier, right? So I was saying that as a best practice, you need to use LLM Node for the RAG, and I will show you why. So if I go ahead and run this, okay, and let's say what I will do, I will just get one question and then ask to that. So I will say, which you might relate, right? Which we need to ask. So what I will ask, I will say, are alcoholic beverages reimbursable? And just I will hit send. What will happen, it will go and go through that document tool which we have added, and now that will give me an answer. But if you look at that answer, that will be too big. So now you can see the answer is too much big. It is providing us the detail like alcohol beverages are not reimbursable in connection with federally supported is possible. They may reimbursable to employee from non-federal funds, and there are other additional detail which are available. So now that's where the LLM node kicks in. Okay, so now if I talk about the LLM node, what I was saying, LLM node, what it will do, it will show me how to do the transformation. Okay, now what does this mean? That this is our core reasoning engine and one of the most used node within a workflow agent. This is where understanding and structuring happens. For example, let's say in this case we have very unstructured or the messy data. And what LLM node will do, LLM will read it, convert it into a clean structured output, ready for the downstream steps. No manual intervention, no rework. We just have to write a prompt how we want that data to look like, and that it will do everything for us. So that's why I said structured reasoning plus generation, decisions, explanation, all these things can be generated using a LLM node. So now what I will do, I will add a LLM node on top of this. So what I will do, I will come here and I will go to this, add this, and say employee answer. But now here is the thing, right? I have to write a prompt so that I will get a good answer, right? So what I will do, I will say you are an assistant answering questions strictly based on an sorry strictly based on an expense policy document, right? And what I will do for this, I will just copy paste few more instruction for this. So what I'll do, I will just copy pasted the instruction, right? So what it should do, that we need to get a direct concise answer to in 1 or 3 sentence. Do not include unnecessary explanation, background assumption. If the policy contains condition like this, summarize them briefly. If expenses are allowed, clearly say allowed. Not allowed, clearly say not allowed. So I'm just putting a random instruction just to get give you idea that as part of this LLM we can do a transformation. This is just for a summary based thing which we wanted to get from the other node. Okay, and now what I will do, I will say input for this is going to be my other node output. So this is how we are going to select the node. So if I have to select any other node output or input, I can do like this. Okay, so I will just create this. I'll just make sure that it is there so I can see this is there. Okay, now if I go ahead, right, and ask a same question which we asked earlier, right, like are alcoholic beverages reimbursable? So now what will happen, it will give me a precise answer which I was looking for and will not be able to understand from the earlier. Okay, so this LLM node will give me that, and you will see See, it is giving very short answer and saying precisely allow this condition, not reimbursable on this, may be reimbursed from a non-federal fund if other policy requirements are met. If consumed during a business meal, the employee must indicate it to an expense report, split the bill to show meal versus alcohol, and charge the alcohol to a non-federal or other aligned fund source and not claim it. So it is giving me a very precise answer to this, right? So that's what the purpose of LLM. So this is one example, and there are other ways which we can use LLM node. The other example I can quickly talk about that is going to be, let's say we have although I know I'm going to cover that as a later part and I can show you that time, but we have a business object or the external REST node, right? And these, if you know, right, if you have used the REST API earlier, you get a response in a very large format. There are multiple set of fields which we get data when we run a API, right? Now from that output, if we just need a specific set number of fields, what we have to do, we have to use again an LLM node, which what it will do, we have to write a instruction because this LLM require prompt, right? So we have to write an instruction in that way that it will fetch only specific set of field, and that if we need it in JSON format, we can write that give me data in a JSON format and give that format that this is how the data should look like. So we have to give that format along with the instruction how it will transform that data from your REST API bigger response payload to a specific set of fields, and that to in JSON or in a summary. So we have to write our instruction accordingly and make sure that especially these three things exist, like an instruction, how the format looks like, and what will be your input. And sometimes, because this was a summary one, so I have not written any output, but I could have written an output example or something like that in if there it is a JSON, right? So we can put that an example. Now one more thing I would like to call out. So there are two ways, okay? If you have to use this LLM, so let's say if I'm going and using another LLM node, for example, okay, demo. Now let's say, as I was talking, for now, if I go here, I will get this as an example. But what I can also do from LLM node, what I can do, I can go into this simple mode and the specification mode. It's easier to, if you do simple mode, what you can do, you can say, let's say there are specific set of fields, as I was saying, especially in case of REST API, there are a specific set of fields which are needed, right? So what we can do, I can have those column called out here. Let's say I need invoice number. I'm just putting a random thing, right? And it is going to be strict, although we have to write everything in this. Okay, this is the invoice number, and then I will add another field, let's say supplier name. Okay, and again it is going to be string, and I will say apply and update. Now if I wanted to use this, what I can do is, earlier it was coming like this, but now I will just to show you, if I go to node employee answer, go to output, I'm getting those field name as a separate value. So that's the benefit we get from the LLM. We can have this structured out in a specific set of columns which we are looking for. So that's the benefit of using the LLM to format and restructure it to any other things. So that's about the LLM one. Now again, I'm going to this, and here now I will talk about agent node and the workflow node. So if I talk about agent node, so right here, this is where your delegation kicks in. So instead of your embedding logic inside the workflow, we can call a specialist or the worker agent. Let's take an example for this, right? Let's talk about supplier onboarding process. So we use this workflow agent, okay, where we wanted to onboard a supplier. But let's say we also wanted to check the sanction for that suppliers, right? And we have created another worker agent that is fetching that data for the sanction, right? Let's take an example of that agent as a sanction check agent, which I have written here, right? So call sanction check agent. So what this agent will do, it will check the risk and return, and then give me a risk score, sanction flag, recommended action. So now what I'm doing, I'm assigning a specific responsibility to a special agent, that is a worker agent, and that will give me a details, and I can use that detail as part of a workflow agent. That's a agent one. Now, if we talk about second category of this, we have workflow node. Now, workflow node, uh, it's your reuse button. So let's say we have another team, let's say a workflow agent team or be supervisor agent team. It can be any team, right? So it can be a supervisor agent team or the workflow agent team. But the only condition is it has to be published. Otherwise, we will not be able to see as part of this workflow node. I'm going to show you live how that looks like, but just telling you the difference between agent node and the workflow node. Agent is a worker agent, but if you're talking about a workflow node, that contains the agent teams and both workflow agent teams as well as your supervisor agent teams. So think of it as a reuse button. Say let's take an example of that. Let's say we have a payables related agent, and there is a we can see there is a invoice exception raised, and how to resolve that. So instead of adding all the sort of condition or the things within a workflow agent, what I can do, I can there is another agent which is already created for the resolution, right? So what I can do, I can use that another agent team which will help me getting this resolved and providing me what actually should be done, right? So we can call that agent teams that will get me the issue resolved. I mean, I'm just giving or restricting it to the specific example which I'm taking, but it can be anything which you would like to do. Okay, so that will be one call, and we are going to get a standardized result every time. Let me just quickly show you, right? So let's take an example. I will use this only. Okay, so here this is your agent and this is your workflow. Now let's take an example of first agent. So what I'm doing, I will just say I'm just putting a random thing. Fine, I'll say payables, and then there is no agent which we have created for payables. That's why it is not giving any agent. But if let's say if I'm doing this, is it giving? Yeah, it is giving me. These are the set of agents it is giving, which are created under this. These are the worker agent. Let's say this, and then there will be, because these are agent, we have to pass a message to them, right? And this can be anything. So if this is your step, what we can do, if there is anything which are coming from the user input, what we can do from input message, or if it is coming from any other nodes, then we can select that node and the given output or the something like that. So I'm giving you one reference, right? If you're using a worker agent, this is how we can use that. And then if let's say iPhone, I will say input message create. There's some issue. Let me reload. It's reloading. I have to create it again. So I will just add that again. Demo. I will just payables. So I will just select input message for now. Create. So now what I can do, I can have this agent triggered out as part of my workflow. So that's how I'm going to leverage it. Same goes for the workflow. What I can do similarly, if I have to add a workflow or the agent teams, again I have to go into this. Oops, sorry, that got stopped. Okay, I already logged in and opened that agent. So what I will do now, I will just go to this workflow agent, and again I will say workflow teams, and I will say fin. Again, I will select financial common. Now I will show the differentiation. Here only these two things are coming, and I will tell you the reason behind it. So if we have to use a agent teams as part of the workflow, it can be a supervisor or the workflow agent teams. We have to make that published. The agent team needs to be published, then only that will visible as part of this workflow node. If we are not published that agent teams, that will not be visible. So that's why you can see only these two are coming, because these are the two only one which are published. If you see, have you have seen that for payables worker agent was not coming, but if I go now, there will be agents which are coming because these are the agent teams which has been published. Let's take an example of payables invoice frequently asked question. So same, I have to provide a message for this agent, and then once I provide the message, then it will use that and process it. That's how it is going to be. It's as simple as that. It's just that we are delegating a task to that team, and then once that this node will give an output in a JSON format. So we have to consume that in our workflow and then use it further. That's what the purpose of using these worker agent or the agent teams using as part of these workflow agents, because we do not want it to complicate our workflow agent. So we are assigning the task to any other subflow and then using the output from that subflow as part of a worker agent. So what I can do if I have to let's say LLM node, right? So now if I have to use, what I can do, I can go into this node. So what I can do, I can use this output. So you can see there are a lot of things which I'm getting from that, because that's how that workflow agent will give me that kind of things. But if I go to this, let's say demo node, here we are getting a simple one because that was a worker agent, and here we are talking about a Teams output, agent Teams output. Okay, so that's why we are getting a multiple set of options which we can use. So that's how we need to leverage agent workflow, agent or agent teams. It's like agent and agent teams. Let's try to understand from that way instead of confusing workflow with the workflow agent. Let's go with the assumption this is agent like a worker agent and this is the agent teams. It can be your hierarchical, that is supervisor agent teams, or the workflow. Okay, so that's that. Now one call out I would like to make, okay, because all these output come back as a structured JSON. So we have to use the path in a LLM to get the actual data from them. Okay, because it's not like that we cannot use directly JSON. If we are getting an actual JSON which you are looking for, then you should be good. But if you're not getting the data, then you have to transform using a LLM node, right? And then use that. And one limitation to keep in mind when you wanted to embed these workflow node into workflow agents, if your agent teams has a human approval step or the wait state, which generally we have in workflow agents, those stay in your outer orchestration. We cannot embed those workflows as part of a workflow agent. So this is one of the limitation which we have for the workflow node. Now that's it for the AI nodes. We have covered in RAG, LLM, agent node, and the workflow node, and how these are going to work from a workflow agent's perspective. RAG for a knowledge, LLM for a reasoning and the generation for a given structured output, agent for a delegation for a specialist task if there is a single task which you wanted to uh, pass it to, and then workflow node for a reusability of your other agent teams which will be doing the task. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching and stay tuned for the more episode of this series.